All right, guys, welcome. It is Married at First Sight Decision Day. It's D Day. Does the D stand for divorce? Well, in most cases, it does, especially for this for this season. It starts off with Juan talking to his parents on a video chat, kind of recapping the marriage and the issues that they do have, but they're basically positive, and he's always saying, everything is okay and they make a good team, a good partners, but the physical isn't there. So the parents is like, well, you have to decide, you have to think it through. Then they show Carla talking to her sisters. She's unsure about how the marriage is working out. Reality is setting in because D-Day is coming soon. She said she needs some affirmation. She needs him to say things like, I do want this to work. I do care about you. All of these things that have been unsaid. And will they remain unsaid? So they're in the hot tub hanging out, just kind of reminiscing about their marriage and the different issues that they had during their marriage. The final thoughts of it is that they make a good team. Like, this is what they keep saying over and over. I think they were the only ones that were kind of the wild card in this scenario, but most people came to the conclusion that actually happened. So before D-Day, they reflect. He goes back to his place. I guess it's a ritual for them to separate and give them time to think about what their final thoughts are going to be. And they kind of just recap the same thing. Basically, they don't have a romantic connection. That part didn't flourish or come out. And to me, Carla looks sick to me, like she might cry or hit him in the face. One of these things. It's been really good. It's kind of what Juan said, but it was like lackluster. The whole little reflection moments they had. And then they did a little goodbye party dance. Is it bye bye bye? Well, considering how he couldn't leave fast enough, he almost left his jacket. What do you guys think? On D-Day, they recap their journey. They show when they first got married, and everybody's kissing and so happy, and the expectations are built so high. I hate when it just goes downward and spirals and goes backwards from that moment. You'd hope that it would get better. I actually hear people say that this happens for real when they, I've heard stories when people who get married, like they've had a long-term relationship and they were so-called happy, but when they get married, things just started to go downhill. They end up getting divorced. Sad to say, this show has shown a lot of those scenarios. But they were so hopeful. They were so hopeful about each other, even when they recap, when they first saw each other and all of this. And Juan does point out, because of her passive aggressiveness and her strong spirituality, her insecure financial future, these are things that came up for him. And then it shows that part where they said it ain't perfect, but it ain't bleak. I guess so. So Juan comes in. He's decided to go clean shaven. Carla comes in looking like a geisha. They greet each other with a hug. He compliments her. Dr. Pia's prediction is basically they're kind of hard to read and they're too nice to each other. They haven't really seen all sides of each other. And Dr. Pepper's like, well, maybe that's the reason they should go forward and continue. Again, Juan's issues about her spiritual beliefs and them not being on the same path when it comes to their interests and the things that make them similar. And Carl's like, well, you don't have to be completely similar, because you grow. There's more of a chance for you to grow if you are with someone that challenges you. Juan basically disagrees and says, he wants somebody that really does have the same interests as him. And of course, the intimacy was a problem. That's something that Carla brought up. And he said, it was good though. They deep dived and really got into some of the deeper parts, which is something they haven't done. And it was actually their first healthy relationship when it comes to Carla. So her choice, she kind of fumbles a bit, gives us a slight, tiny bit of hope, but she wants it to end. They're not truly compatible, is what her thoughts are. And Juan agrees and says basically he'd like a divorce. And she, of course, throws in, for my forever person wouldn't leave me when it comes to things like, when it comes to workout habits and all this. Because, Juan's like, well, I like to go to the gym. And, well, she does Pilates or something is what I think Dr. Pia says. Like, it's not the same thing. And all in all, it ended amicably. So technically, I say it was a happy ending for them. If it could have went the other way, like it did with MM and Akechi, Michelle and David, or Madison and Alan, so they didn't have any of that animosity. They were cool at the end of the day. But Carla had to turn on a little bit of her sass and said she's a magical unicorn, and somebody that really loves her is going to come into her life. And she says, ciao, ciao, Wancho, and blows him a kiss. And that was in. I thought it was cute. I liked her woman empowerment moment. So at the end of the day, this was a happy ending because we all kind of saw that coming. So I started with Juan and Carla, but the show really started with Madison and Alan, and then David and Michelle. I think they just got those two out of the way because pretty much we could tell where those two relationships were going to go. So when it came to Alan and Madison, Alan was trying to play it cool. Madison acted like she was winded when she finally sat down, like she was like probably dreading this moment where she has to take accountability for her messiness of spending time with another husband and not her own husband. That was the worst part, because I think that's what Pastor Cal narrated. He's like, we did a good job putting these two people together, but one of them chose to pursue another husband instead of working on their own marriage. And Pastor Cal does apologize to Alan. And Madison's like, it wasn't intentional. I mishandled things with my feelings and I should have been more upfront with my feelings. And he was like, why'd you dangle that carrot of hope? And she's like, well, I wasn't really sure. Because if you were so sure, why'd you dangle that carrot of hope? She's like, I was really not sure at that time, and my efforts in the marriage were real. He was like, I could kind of tell something was going on because I was really trying to work too hard. I had to work too hard to get any type of anything out of you, but I'm repulsed that you kind of played me for these last few weeks. You could have clued me in on what was going on, and I thought more highly of you, but now not so much. And Madison's like, well, I just really don't have anything else to say because I'm not going to be able to change your mind and all this. Why beat a dead horse? I'm not going to feel bad about myself. And Pastor Cal's like, well, closure is needed in this situation, though. So you kind of owe that to him, right? But Alan's like, oh, no closure's needed. She's going to be very easy to get over her. It's just like a switch. And he's like, well, how do you feel about Dave? And he's like, well, David's like dirt to me. So Pastor Cal's like, so Madison, are you going to continue with David? She's like, probably, but maybe sometime in the future, but right now I need time to heal. So they're like, is there anything else that needs to be said? And he said, well, Alan's like, no part of me wants to be married to this person. And Pastor Cal's trying to be positive to him, saying, don't lose hope, we wish you the best. They kind of, when they hug Madison, it's kind of begrudgingly. She's all happy hugging them, and they're kind of like, still feel a little ick with her. And Alan's like, I guess I'm back on these streets. He didn't say it like that, but yeah. I thought it was funny. I thought I thought Alan was trying extra hard to show that he didn't care because he really cared a lot. He totally dismissed her. I know it kind of felt um, a little like a gut punch when he was like, "Oh, it's very easy to get over her. It's just like a switch. I could easily just turn it off." I see it was like a little gut punch to her, but she still has her David, her boo, so she's moving on. Now it's Michelle and David's turn for their decision day. But I guess it's not really a decision day. We know what the decision is. It's just to make closure for these couples. Michelle has this knockout dress on, and then she's getting all these compliments. David comes in looking like a hungover bear/lion. Looks like he cried all night because he knows he's messy. Again, he comes in and does his same old apology that he's done every time. He does the line again about the feelings being caught, and I think Dr. P is like, "Why are you being so defensive?" Because I think he starts talking about how Michelle was not showing him any love or affection or care or anything. And so then he was like, "I just mentally checked out, and I want to be done with this at this point." Pastor Cal says, you can't check out when you're in a relationship. You can't just check out on the person. Well, David's like, "Well, a good partner would help me cope, and so I wouldn't check out." And Pastor Cal says, "Well, it's your responsibility. You can't really put that all on your partner, basically." And Dr. P says, "When do you actually take responsibility for your actions?" And he was basically saying he didn't care. And she's like, "Well, we see you don't care." And I think Dr. P at some point said she lost all respect for him, but I'll get to that point, that part in a moment. But I think they were asking, "Is part of your happiness pursuing Madison?" And he's like, "Yeah, basically." And they were asking Michelle, "What would you need him to say to work this out?" And she's like, "Basically nothing. All he's saying is it's all my fault anyway, so I'll just move out of the way so he can be with Madison." And then she says, "Well, you asked me did I care about this." She said, "Well, do you care, David?" And he said basically no. No, honestly, I don't care. He throws his head back like he's just tired of hearing any conversation about this. He's acting like a big kid, a big brat, honestly. Throws his ring on the table. And Dr. P is like, "Well, I lost all respect for you. You need to do some soul searching." And they tell Michelle, "Don't lose hope." And David, I think he just walks out. I don't think he even shakes hands. I don't even see him shake hands or hug the experts like I've seen the other people do. But they did hug Michelle. He says basically he's relieved that this whole thing is done. We basically see his true colors. And Michelle's like, all he cares about is protecting Madison himself and his man part when he probably went to the gym and, got turned on by her. I'm changing the wording up. There was a little language used there, but I was kind of surprised. But basically, that's the type of guy I feel like he is. All he cares about is what's going to make him feel good at the end of the day. He never really cared about, maybe he cared about the process in the beginning, but once he was getting treated the way he was, he no longer respected the marriage and just easily walked out. Now, I see a lot of people online saying, "Yeah, that's what she deserves. He should have went out on her," even though they're saying it was wrong, but they're saying basically, what do you expect when you treat somebody like they're nothing? But again, it just shows you that there's no sanctity to marriage anymore and no respect for marriage anymore. It's like, to me, they were just like two kids. You're in the middle of a marriage and you're like, "Well, I don't like my spouse. I like this person, so I'm going to go play with this person now." It's just like two kids. Like, you get tired of this little new toy you got and you're bored by it, so you throw it down and you ask mommy to get you a new toy, and then that becomes your favorite toy. So to see them do that in this process where you're supposed to try to make an effort, I just hate to see them actually get married to someone and do this in their actual marriages, because honestly this was actual marriage. It was a totally legal marriage. I understand the circumstances were kind of crazy, but again, it just shows that they had little to no respect for marriage. And I don't know if marriage is in their future, but we'll talk more about them in a moment. So Camille and Thomas, they go out on this outdoor garden restaurant fancy kind of date before decision day. And again, the issue comes up with the living situation. What are we going to do? He has no plan, and she feels like he's leaving her in a lurch, giving us questions of whether they're going to go further. And he's like, well, you haven't shown your softer side. And she's like, well, if you basically show me that I can relax and be softer, then I will. But until then, I have to keep my head on straight so that I can possibly make the decisions that need to be made. And they're like, so all this time, was it just us playing house, or do we actually have a plan? Are we going to move forward into this marriage? And he's like, well, I don't want you to feel like we're just playing house. I feel like he's trying to hold on to it. He's pulling things like her being a little more softer and a little more emotional and showing her softer side, and she's pulling things about basically, is he going to make decisions? Is he going to be complacent? And what is he going to do in these regards? But you know what? I thought we were done with Madison and David, but now we see them on a date. Like, why? They were out on a golf date, flirting, talking about how are you doing after this whole ordeal that we've caused. Of course, they didn't say we caused it. And she's like, I'm happier this last week. We're hanging together with you. It's like no pressure. And he's like, golf and food and a beautiful woman. These are all the best things in life and all this. And they're just like the same person. She's like, yeah. I'm like, really? He's like, well, I can see a future with you. And like, yeah, it's easy peasy when we're together. And they hug and all that, I'm pretty sure they probably wanted to do more, been doing more, but on camera, at least they can hold themselves on camera, right? So their little pursuit continues. All right, so we're recapping the journey from Thomas and Camille's perspective. And Thomas, the way he's sounding, he sounds like he wants to keep his wifey. He's already giving me those vibes. Carla does appear to have questions. She says their future goals and their mindsets aren't fully aligned. As they start to talk, she comes in her little red dress and everybody's showing her love. He's coming in looking dapper and they're saying, he's more swag and confident. Sure, whatever, guys. And he walks in with a basketball and he puts it behind the couch. For me, that kind of sealed it. I was like, I know he's going to do something with that basketball to proclaim his love for her. But he puts it behind the couch. I assume it's a surprise. She said, it's funny how he cares so little about being embarrassed and what people think. He's not leading with his ego. He's like, she gives me strength. And he's like, she's like, no plan is a problem because he doesn't really have a plan for our future, not a strong plan. And he's like, well, you're the stronger person in that area. And then she brings up he was in a 9-year relationship. What if our thing fizzles out and you just want it to end? For somebody to hold something for 9 years is a long time for you just to leave it. She says, when it comes to her soft side coming out, it'll come out more if he starts to take control. Then Thomas goes behind the couch and gets that basketball. I knew he was going to use it, but I didn't know it wrote "Stay Married" on the ball. I thought that was so cute. That was written on there. He's on his knee all day waiting for her response because he has yet. She has yet to make her decision. He basically made his. Uh, my question is, will he be able to get up during this commercial break? Because he's left there during the whole commercial break. And the way that she says she left us hanging, she was like, well, unfortunately, or something she said, and she's like touching her ring like she's gonna pull it off. But she didn't. And she said, unfortunately, I can't see my life without this person. So I was like, yay, finally something works here. Finally it worked out. I see the love, ever since they consummated, I pretty much felt like that they were headed towards marriage. They were so boring, much more boring than all the other couples. Besides Juan and Carla, they were a different kind of boring. They were a good boring. So I was happy for them. When they decided to pop the cork of that champagne, they gave each other a little kiss to seal the deal. It was a wonderful moment. I was so happy and congratulating them. Yay! The experts are proud they at least got one couple hitched and stayed together. The group's all back together. So I'm not sure if I've always checked into this show regularly to see the end where they have them hang out again, but everybody meets up, and I think it's the doing of Juan. It looks like this is Juan's place, and he's like behind the bar, and everybody's shaking hands, even hugging Em and Akechi. And I think I'm trying to remember if Akechi, Em hugs Akechi. Maybe he's more cool now because he knows there's no strings, because he usually shrinks away from her. But Juan is like, hey, everybody's here. And even Carla comes like, hey, you made it. He's like, this is great. There's been no awkward moments. And Carl's like, it's a little bit too early to say that. The foursome come in. So we have Alan and Michelle come in separately, and then we have David and Madison, the new couple, come in. And David's trying to get Alan to shake his hand. Everybody else shook his hand, but he said hey or whatever. But he's like, no, I'm not shaking your hand. Like, he's trying to push it too hard. David's trying to push, hey, let's be friends. I'm a cool guy, I'm a great man, just take my hand. He keeps trying to get him to shake his hand. He ain't doing it. Good for you, Alan. Anyway, it quickly goes into the show where drags Akechi again, and she's like, she keeps saying, I'm not done. And they try to hear from him, and he's kind of saying basically I wasn't around because this person was making my life miserable, making me feel like I was less than, so I wasn't even around that much for you guys to know each other, for you guys to know me, basically. So that's what Carla said. She said the energy is so bad here. You guys are both wonderful people. I don't know if you are, Akechi, because you weren't around that much, but let's just say you are, and just let this end, let this energy go. So again, it's like Carla has to break things up and chill things out, and M is on the side with the girls now. It's just giving me these moments from the first anniversary. It's just giving me that recap again. And she's like, Akechi's not a person, he's a monster. I just went through all this whole ordeal by myself for weeks while this person treated me like this. And while they're hashing things out, the girls are trying to calm her down. Again, at first I was like, okay, you have a right to a little drag, but she kept dragging and to me I'm like, ooh girl, you do kind of need to let this go. And he was actually starting to try to say something at this point, and she's like, no, let me finish. She never really let him talk at this point. She's basically saying she was justified to be wild and loud like that, and he needs to own up to the fact that he came to that retreat just to embarrass her. Again, I don't think he even had time to respond. I think he started saying, no, I'm not going to listen to you. No, I'm not. Like, he was just getting kind of upset, and that's basically as far as he got. And before she was taken out of the room, I assume by the girls, the energy was really bad. And to me, if I was I would probably just left. I probably wouldn't even have stayed that long. Not with him there harshing the vibe. Like, to me, it's just kind of sad. It's like, to me, this making me think, was Akechi have some point? Because I did see when he called her a hole, and he did say some degrading things to her. I'm just wondering if there's some more receipts gonna come out, some things on her. I don't know, but that was a bad time. Then because I thought, because they gave us that little Karen moment between Madison and Michelle, the both of the M's, the blonde M girls. So I thought that was going to be the big moment, but no, MM outdid herself with a little bit of craziness there. So while they're doing that, David apologized to Ellen again, and he's like, I hear what you're saying. Things happen, but I don't accept this part. All you're saying, it was unintentional. And he tries to get that handshake again. He's like, yeah, I'm not shaking your hand. Facts. Don't do it, man. Don't ever give in to his handshake. Because that means you're cool with this guy and you agree with his tactics and his life and that he's a great man, and I don't agree he's a great man. So Thomas steps up. Everybody's happy that Thomas and Camille, they basically said, we stay married. But of course she tricked everyone for the moment again and was like acting like, she was like, unfortunately, I'm off the market. So everybody was happy for them. And then Juan and Carlos said, that basically they didn't stay together. And he's like, well, we tried everything. Yeah, they tried everything that the experts told them to try, but Juan, you didn't try everything. But Carla's living her best life, so I'm not feeling bad for that scenario. She's still trying to be positive and bring joy. So that's cool. That's all good, but everybody knows that they're not together. Then Madison goes and sits by her boo, and then they're talking about, she's like, well, me and Alan weren't this way, but David and Michelle, basically Michelle was never going to give him a chance, and she was treating him this way, that way, and then Michelle looks back like, are you going to wait till I come over there before you talk junk about me? She didn't say that word, but she's like, are you going to wait till I come over there basically before you start talking about me? She's like, I can say it to you. All right, I can wait or whatever. Madison's just kind of trying to stand up and get on her tippy toes and pull up her big girl pants that she probably, I'm not going to even go there. But David was going to be a part of that joke. Anyway, what's going to happen? And she goes over there. They cut it off. And like, we don't get to see this confrontation that I've been waiting for. That's the moment I've been waiting for. But hey, guess what? They're going to do even more after stuff because, they don't have the after parties anymore. But it looks like they're going to have like a whole nother episode where they're going to catch up with everybody even more. And guess what? MM's already engaged. Like, how fast did she do that? How many weeks have gone by since you guys taped that? And they're going to all meet up again. And guess what? Ikechi's going to meet this guy too. I'm like, is this crazy? Is this like a petty engagement? She's engaged to this guy. It seems just too quick. And I'm wondering if that's going to even work at the end of the day. I don't know. I have to see who this guy is. Now, I've seen things on the internets. I've seen a video actually where someone's saying it's on her Instagram that she is engaged, but she blurred the guy's face or covered the guy's face up so we don't get to see him. But he's actually a part of the show. I had no idea he was going to be a part of the show. And then we get to see more of the Karen confrontation with the two M's, Michelle and Madison. The two blondes are going to hash it out. There may be some weave pulling, I don't know. But it's a confrontation that I do want to see. And to see how Michelle was so upset, it did kind of surprise me that she was that upset. I think she's more upset that she feels they may have one-upped her and they're happy and she's not. So like they're kind of rubbing that in her face that she's alone, and basically they beat the system and they actually found happiness, and she just has to sit there and feel like a loser. And this is probably all the things going through her mind at the time. So this is gonna be fun. Alan's talking about he's trying to take care of some urges. I don't know. They showed that clip so early on in the season. I didn't know. I thought he was cheating too. I didn't know. So now we get to see what the urges conversation was about with Alan. So hopefully Alan finds his happiness, but people are trying to move on and move forward. Some are moving too fast, but this is what we have to look forward to. I thought we were done, guys. I thought we were done. But they still got some more extras for us to do a whole episode on. And if they have another episode behind this, I'm going to be very surprised, because I think there should be probably like a reunion type of episode. But maybe they're doing something a little bit different. Just having them in their natural element, meeting up at restaurants and different spots and places. Maybe that's the goal, and they don't want to do it in a more of a staged way, even though this whole thing is staged. They don't want to do it like a tell-all type of way. I don't know what the goal is, but I guess we're going to find out. And if you know what the goal is, please drop it in the comments. Email me at cbiztv@yahoo.com. It was an interesting watch. I got a little joy there. So happy for Thomas and Camille. They're a sign of hope for 2025. They're a sign of hope for all of us in many different ways. They're a sign of hope for Married at First Sight. They need it. But it's fun to see how these people are trying to move on. It's fun to see their messiness. It's fun to see some of these explosions, and rightfully so. But at the end of the day, I hope everyone's mental health is fine. I hope everyone's heart heals. But let's watch the messiness. All right, talk to you guys later. This is Irene, CBiz Media. Faith, love, and trends. All the best, and God bless.